All right, good morning. And I'm going to get off this podium because it feels a little weird to me. Good morning, thank you for coming. So many of you on day 3 of Avaya Engage New Orleans. My name is Andrew Mayer. You might not know me because I live in Germany. You won't recognize that from my accent, I'm sure. I was born about 4 miles from here in Baptist Hospital, New Orleans. I left 30 years ago, and I'm really happy to have the opportunity to come back to my hometown. It looks a lot different than it was when I was here, and talk to you about something I'm really, really interested in, and share some experiences and what I do and what I've seen in my job, in my travels here. I'm an evangelist for Avaya. I sat with somebody on a bus going back to the hotel last night, and they asked me what I do, and I said I'm an evangelist. He said, some words I can't say here on microphone right now. He said, no, they don't have people like that at Avaya. And I gave him my business card, and he almost jumped out the bus. He couldn't believe it. I am an evangelist. What I do is I tell stories. I tell stories, real stories of what customers, what partners, what people are doing with Avaya technology. I've been with Avaya. I started with a small startup in 1994, 1995 in Germany with a little blue logo called AT&T. I was employee 36. AT&T was unknown back in the days and outside of the United States. Of course, I knew Ma Bell growing up here in the United States here. And of course, we've grown from AT&T, Lucent, and Avaya here, and I've transitioned with that. And one question I'd like to ask is the phrase Industry 4.0 something you recognize? Does that mean something to you? Industry 4.0. So that doesn't surprise me that almost no hands go up, because this is a phrase that was originated out of Germany, this Industry 4.0, and it comes from the 4 phases of the Industrial Revolution. First phase, from steam to electricity. Second phase, from steam to computer technology. I jumped one there. Fourth phase is now bringing in the cyber, the using all the tech that's available out there, and I talk about Experience 4.0. Experience 1.0 we all know. You go into the shop, you're standing across the counter, you're talking to somebody, you see them, you have context, you understand them, you can see that they're sweating, it's hot outside, they've got 2 kids behind them. You know how to treat them. Experience 2.0 is when we sent out all the call centers. We love call centers, right? Call centers are great, but then we put distance between you and the person you're trying to serve there. You're losing context, right? You have to make a lot of assumptions there because you don't see them anymore. Experience 3.0, we took the factor of time out. Non-real-time interactions, email, chat is not really real-time, close to real-time maybe there. And now we're up to what I call Experience 4.0. So how do we make real sense? How do we recreate those original experiences there when I stand across the bench or a counter from a butcher or a salesperson, and they can understand me, and you have all the information available to you to make the right decisions at the right point at the right time. This is what I call Experience 4.0, and I'm going to talk about this and how we can make this happen here using some of the Avaya technology. So this world you understand, customers on the left, channels, email, voice, the rest, communicating with your businesses here, somehow being connected. I put a cloud here. A lot of it still is copper wire, direct connectivity. And Avaya comes in with UC, CC, or now called Customer Experience, UC Experience, applications connecting. This is why you're here. This is what you use from Avaya. We added over time business applications, CRM tools, right? We're integrated into the desktop there for agents to use here. And then over time, we started adding more and more communication platforms and technologies to interact with your customers there. Some of these you might not be using here, but all of these are being connected through a single network, a single entity here. Now we're bringing into things, biometrics, the Internet of Things. Once we start talking about the Internet of Things, we have to start talking about artificial intelligence. The Internet of Things is a big data problem, right? Connecting lots of sensors, devices of whatever might be relevant for your business here has to be handled. You can't be monitoring that and managing that manually here. So artificial intelligence. And then recently we've got things like the blockchain coming into this. All of this running through a single network there. Being able to make these things interact with one another, connect with one another, take advantage of all these different applications in real time or as you need there. So I'm going to talk about some of the logos here that pop up here. Almost every one of these we're doing work with here today. And there's plenty more that I can't put on the slide here. It would just not be readable. I'm going to talk about 3 different kinds of experience and automation. I'm going to start with data. The data automation I'm going to start with the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things, a lot of people get confused when they think of IoT and Avaya. What does that mean? What role does Avaya play with IoT? And I like to say Avaya teaches IoT to speak. IoT is a lot of devices, a lot of things talking to each other. But when somebody needs to talk to somebody or communicate with somebody, whether it's a message, text message, or a voice call, or maybe it's a conferencing that needs to be set up automatically there because of something that was triggered through a sensor, a fire alarm, might have been an IoT device there. How do we make that happen in real time with the right information, the right context here? We don't connect all the devices to Avaya. That's not important here. It's of course possible, and you've seen maybe some of the demos in some of the other sessions here or down on the stands in the expo. We can connect devices. We connect the platforms, the IoT platforms, to our network here, and there's many, and I can only show a few here. So what is IoT? It can be a lot of things, as it's called, the Internet of Things. Anything that's on the internet that has an IP address here. Examples of what some people are doing with IoT, you may have heard this in one of the sessions earlier here. This is an example from the Dutch police. The 112 is the 911 in Europe here. When I show this slide, it was maybe a year and a half ago, to my kids who are teenagers, they just didn't understand that this was a problem. So the problem is you have an accident. I hope this never happens to any of us. You run into a lake. You dial 911, 112 here, and the emergency services around the world have two questions they have to ask you. What's the problem? Where are you? And if you're in this car in this lake at that moment there, you might not be able to describe very well where you are. I'm trying to get out of my car and I'm somewhere here. So why can't we just make this possible that automatically your location would be searched? The location information sent from a call. Over 80% of emergency calls coming into emergency networks are made by mobile devices. Not all of them are smartphones, of course, right? Most of them can send the location information here. I can tell you that over 80% of the public service answering points in the world cannot accept the location data, can't process it. They don't have the technology. They're still running copper wires, just phone calls. This is possible today, and we're doing this in the Netherlands, Portugal, and a few other countries here. So one example I want to give here is from a year ago, and the company now has, I think it's called pivoted, is what startups do here. So they've changed their business model a little bit. But the example I thought was really useful from a service provider. So your internet provider at home here. The company is called Catalina Labs, and they have an app, or they had an app that was called WIXI. WIXI was basically something that could fix your Wi-Fi. You're at home, you have problems, probably many of you might have children. Children come and say, Dad, Netflix is not working, YouTube's slow, or something like that. So this application would just scan your Wi-Fi, get some information about the state of your Wi-Fi. It could also do some preemptive updating you. You might need a new firmware for your router, things like that internally. But it can also, when it recognizes, do a line check between you and your service provider and get the information back from that line check and display it to you on the screen. So very simple. I'll let this build real quick. So it's trying to do a lot of self-service and things like that here. And if at the end it recognizes your line has a problem, it would pop up a screen saying, because it knows who your provider is, that information is seen during the line check, call your provider, 1-800, press 3752, because they know the IVR prompts, and when you get to an agent, say this, and the script will be, what you need to tell them. I did a line check, and I'm seeing this information. So the agent gets the information. That's a really nice service. That was free of charge. But that really doesn't solve a problem at this point, not for the service provider. What they wanted to do is take that information they collected during the line check and send it to the service provider seamlessly. So that it gets to the provider in the package there, and they can make a decision what they want to do with it. So at this point, Avaya comes in with their workflow. We can process that information, make a decision, contextually based decision. Do we want to call this customer? Do we want to chat with them? Are they a business customer? Are they a private customer? What's the status here? Make the right decision at the right point. How do I want to service this person here? I don't need more phone calls coming into my business. I don't know, and I won't ask for a show of hands here, but I've had CIOs tell me, I need fewer phone calls. I need my customers, my users here to stop calling me. Go to the web, go to self-service here. I need to make smart decisions of who I'm going to deflect to other channels here. And here we made the decision that we want to chat with this customer here. So immediately the agent gets all the information. It's already popped up into the screen from the line check here, and they can seamlessly help that customer here. And if they need to, of course, they can escalate it to a voice call here. Numbers that they were showing, they were working with Rogers in Canada, was one of their customers that they were working with here, of how they can deflect calls. Of course, the mean time to resolution was significantly lowered, right? How fast they could solve the problem here. So back to my platform, back to my concept here, why wouldn't we then take this idea of Catalina Labs and their integration with the ServiceNow application and contact center, why wouldn't we maybe extend that and add some artificial intelligence? Why do we just have to do the workflow and go to agent and make those decisions? Why don't we have some intelligent self-service coming through the AI? Because of this network of applications and the way this works here, that makes it very simple for them to do. Next example, text automation. Text automation, we talk a lot about artificial intelligence here and the role of AI. And that's one part of the talk here we want to talk about is what does that mean, what is AI? And I thought I'd share some applications, some ideas of what's doing, but help you understand what does AI mean for you in a contact center, how do you understand it and take it apart and digest it here. I'm a big Spotify user. You might use other services here. You might be Spotify as well. Spotify, about a year and a half ago, introduced a Discover functionality. So every week I get a Discover playlist given to me by Spotify. They're using artificial intelligence, using machine learning here, looking at what I listened to during the last week, comparing that to the other millions of users that are listening to similar types of music, and coming up with ideas of songs I might want to listen to. And it is amazing what they're able to learn and present to me. Songs and artists I would have never thought of hearing to. So AI is around us and being presented to us, even though we don't know about it. So what is AI? Two pieces of AI are most important here, natural language processing and machine learning. There's lots of different pieces. There's visual recognition, machine vision here. But natural language processing is when computers process human language, whether that's spoken or written language here. Machine learning is where it's learning from those conversations, right? Where it's able to take what it's extracted out of the conversation or the information there and be able to learn from that to be able to be more efficient the next time. So one example is a company called ITyX. They're based in Germany, but they're also active here in the United States. They've been in this business for 20 years. 20 years doing email automation. Granted, 20 years ago, AI was very rudimentary. Very basic information here. So they've tapped into our network, our solution here, and integrated with the Avaya Oceana platform here by extracting information out of emails. Not just who's sending me an email, what's in the subject line, but what is in the body of the email. By looking into the contents of the email, one, being able to classify those interactions here. If you're getting emails from a web form, you probably have drop-down boxes the customer's supposed to choose. It's a new customer, I have a billing, I have whatever. So you're doing classification, or the customer's doing classification for you, right? Is it always correct? No. They choose whatever might be the first thing on the list, and they start writing something else inside the body of their message to you here. So, and analyzing what's in the body of the message, and taking that out and making the right decision before even routing it to the right queue or right set of agents here, extracting information out of the email, account numbers, streets, problems, pieces of the conversation here that can be then used for the routing here or even presented to the agent. So the agent gets a pre-scripted information with suggested responses before they even go to reply back. Again here, going to more text automation, I want to talk about chatbots, also another subject here and a lot of interest here. So chatbots and messaging, a lot of confusion, a lot of hype. 2016 was a big year for chatbots when Facebook and their messenger platform introduced a big hurrah. Chatbots are going to save communications in the world. A lot of misunderstanding. You've seen this already, Avaya Ava, if you were in sort of the key session, I think it was yesterday morning, or in my session on Monday. Avaya Ava is an application that we've rebranded here. It's been out, it's 8 years of technology that we've been doing, and we've now labeled it Avaya Ava. Automating your interactions on these social media platforms. It's basically, the first thing it will do for you is it gives you applications or an interface between your social media platforms and your contact center. Secondly, you can add bot-type interactions and processing here to automate those conversations or to semi-automate the conversations before they go to an agent. Not imagining that we're going to completely automate a complete conversation with a customer here, but having that initial exchange. Think of it when you call into an IVR. Who are you? You type in numbers, you speak your name and things like that. The bot can do this very easily and identify what your interest is, what you're trying to do here before we send it into a live agent. Bots, what that might be used for, I'd like to give the example of mobile applications. Many of you are from companies that have mobile apps that customers are using there. Mobile applications, there's 2.5 million apps in the Play Store, a little bit more, 3 million in the Play Store, 2.5 in the Apple iOS Store out there. Every single app has its own language. If you download 3 different banking apps, they're all going to look different. You've got to figure out how to maneuver through each of those apps. A designer came up with an idea of what the buttons might look like, where they might be placed, and how you have to interact with it. Why wouldn't you want to just use your natural language and interact with your bank? Why wouldn't that app have the functionality that you could just text in, type within the application what you're trying to do? In this case, transferring $25 to my wife. The bank knows me, I'm logged in, I'm authenticating the application here. I just say, I want to transfer money to my wife. I've already said and allowed them to know who my wife is here in a certain limit, or this might be my children here, and it just takes care of it for me automatically. Why do I need to go through all the loops and all the hoops to make this possible here? This technology is available today. I mentioned this in my talk, if anyone was in my talk on Monday here. This is what I call really low-hanging fruit. If you have a mobile application and you have not enabled communications in your mobile application, and I don't mean a hyperlink to a phone number that takes you out of the app to make a phone call, that's not enabled communications in your app. If you haven't enabled real communications, whether it's text or voice, in your mobile application, you really need to be looking into it. You're losing context. You're losing the opportunity to engage your customer exactly where they are. I told this to my brother, who previously worked for UPS out in the West, and I said, he was the designer of the mobile application, and he's had won a couple of awards because it's very nice, and I don't know the UPS app, and you can make your own comments whether it's good or not. But I told him, if somebody is in your app or on your web page, if they're in your app trying to service themselves, do something here, it's as if they're in your store. If you ignore that experience that they're having, if you say, you were in my app, but now you call me, you have to start over again, how are we treating our customers? If they spend 50 minutes on your web page or in your mobile application, and then you say, click this number, and it takes me to the phone app, and it takes me to the IVR, and I have to re-enter my information and explain to the person what I was trying to do, what kind of experience are we talking about here? This is 2018. This shouldn't be a conversation we have to have. I understand, having been in this business for 24 years, that there's a lot of legacy, a lot of history, and a lot of diversity in our companies here in silos making this happen. But it's something you need to be taking back to your business here as a very important subject, and it's certainly easy to do. Our Avaya Ava is available in 34 languages. May or may not be important to you, but it is for me, living in Europe, where we have lots of different languages being spoken. What I wanted to share is, how do you understand artificial intelligence, natural language processing in a contact center world? What does that mean if somebody's going to come in? You may get some consultant may show up in your business one day and want to talk about machine learning and how it's going to change your business here. So I break it down in a couple of simple things. I come from a call center background. I understand what that means, and these are some of the steps that you go through when you're building a call center application here. There's an input. In our world, we call them channels. Right? User context. We analyze things. There's automation. Automation is an ACD, right? There's routing happening there, desktops and agents. So let me make this simple. From a voice perspective, what does that mean? Voice, you've got phone numbers. The number they called, the number they're calling from. Obviously, we're using that information to make decisions on what they're doing. Biometrics, right? We may not be using that a whole lot in the voice world here, but it's certainly out there. Speaker ID and all. Your IVR and your ACDs, obviously, we've all got lots of those in operation. And the desktop and reporting are things you understand. Let's take this to email. From addresses, to addresses. Obviously, things you're using when you're making decisions on either screen pop or how you're going to route the information. You may be doing some content analysis, looking into what's in the body of the mail. You might even have auto responses. And most of the auto responses are, thank you for your email, we'll get to it in 24 hours, but please do not respond to this email. That's another wonderful experience we have all over the place. So let's move this now into messaging. So we understand the breakdown. We can do this one-to-one on a messaging world. So messaging is going to be from a lot of different directions. It can be from a social media network type of messaging application. It can be from a different solution here. User context can be very diverse. I just put a couple ideas. If somebody's messaging you from Twitter, you're going to have a profile ID, or from Facebook. If they're logged into your application and you have messaging involved, you're going to get more information, of course, much more rich information in that conversation coming in line. The analysis, what language are they talking to me in? right? They're typing at me here. What language is this here? Understanding the language. Sentiment analysis. Are they happy? Are they not happy? Is that important in the decision, what you're going to do next? Understanding what they're asking for, their intent. So classification is going to help later on of what I'm going to do with that information. And then entities. I'll show you entities in a moment, but entities are things like account numbers, right? Grabbing that out. That's natural language processing. You don't need to understand the science of NLP. I will be honest, I don't understand all the science. And I know a couple of people in this room, they can attest to that. But you don't have to understand everything about NLP. NLP is taking pieces of information out there and helping you make the next step decision, right? Grabbing the information and making it available for the process. Learning. IVR is for the automation here, making this smarter, making it automated here. The learning is your machine learning piece, right? Machine learning, again, another very complex science here, but learning from those previous conversations. Learning doesn't always happen automatically. Learning needs to be assisted. There's a lot of training to teach a smart ML solution here. Doesn't mean it's hard to do. It doesn't mean it takes a long time to do. But I often give the example, or I was given the example, and I use it over again. I had a Dutch company, a Danish company. I know we have a Dane in the room. That came to me and said, I've got 2 years of web chat transcripts. Can I feed it into your machine learning tool and have it learn everything and be ready to go on day one? We could try that. Sure, we can take in your collection of conversations there and feed it in. There is one problem, though. You can ask, were all of those conversations really good conversations? Is that what you want to teach your machine learning system here? And they said, oh, no, there's a lot of garbage in there. Right? We don't want to teach the machine that. Otherwise, it's going to keep replicating that here. So sanitizing, cleaning up that kind of information before you do that is a huge task that needs to be done, and it can be, of course, help get us more quickly. Scripted, I'd like to, for our world here, we understand IVR scripts. Processing trees-based decision-making here can also be part of a messaging solution here. The rest of this, we all know. Your ACD doesn't change, your clients don't change, your ACD reports don't change, right? Now you just have a messaging or a text or a chat channel that's coming into the solution here. This is what I tried to share and just make it a little bit simple. We've got one more, and I promise all of these slides you're going to get, and the reason I'm wearing a couple of mics here, this whole talk is being recorded, and I'll be putting it up on YouTube later this afternoon. If there's anybody that you think in your business that might profit from hearing some of this, you'll be able to get the link. I'll show you at the end here, and you can share it with whoever you want here. So take photos if you like. I'm happy with that, but I know it could be helpful. It might be a little bit hard to read the dark here, but this is a breakdown of what a machine learning or an AVA, it doesn't have to be AVA, but it's how most of these are working here. You have domains, so your business might be the airline business here. It's doing language analysis here to make sure we get into the right language. So if I'm an airline and I'm doing maybe 17 different languages, I have to make sure I do that analysis and get it in the right direction of my process here. Intents, what are they asking about? Lost bags, rebookings, delayed flights. So I'm doing all this intent understanding here. Then we have directed dialogues. This is the bot experience. We don't have to have a bot experience here. We can just be doing the analysis and extraction here of the information for better processing. We can go through the bot experience, and the bot might be a dead end. It might be the end of the conversation. The person might get what they want out of a bot experience here, but it might also continue further, that we've got to a certain point, and now we need to get it to a live person, perhaps, with all that collected information. So one of the most important things of any bot or AI that you might be including in your conversations with customers, whether it's text or voice, is that seamless integration to your contact center. The last thing we can do, and we know that it happens today even on a normal IVR, is when we transfer somewhere in the business and the information is lost. What kind of experience is going to be for a customer if they're in some really nice bot, whether they know they're talking to a bot or not is a different question, and they get to a live person, and the live person is very cheery, how can I help you today? And the person has been spending 6 minutes in your bot here. That just can't happen. So seamlessly making sure that everything that happened in the bot experience here is transferred down to the agent. And then, of course, agents, if necessary, we get a list of information, what was happening here, and be able to hopefully help the person right away. One example of messaging solutions here is a company called Cupid. They're also here at our expo, showing their solution here. They are a relatively new player for us in Avaya. They've connected their integration to our solution platform. They run on all the different contact center solutions here as well here. Contextual messaging. It's a mouthful there. What is contextual messaging? How many of you use things like Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp? Any of those, right? If you have children, you probably have to because you don't get them down to your phones anymore. Contextual messaging is you go into your messaging app, you pull up Harry, your son, and you see the history, right? All the information is still there. Compare it to web chat, where on your web page, a window pops up there, you type into it, it's a new conversation every time. There's no history in that conversation. Contextual means we keep all the context, and I'm simplifying it a bit here. So Cupid specializes in contextual messaging. One of the things you do, you can start on the web, you can move to the mobile seamlessly, just like you would in these other messaging apps. You can start on a web page, writing something in Facebook Messenger, if you've ever tried it, and you have Messenger on your mobile application. All that information is still there, and you can be walking out the door and continue your conversation. That's what Cupid does. Delivering efficient customer engagement is what they're trying to do. Messaging is obviously a big subject. Messaging is sometimes seen as more efficient for companies than voice calls here, trying to get people to text rather than calling in. You message a business, or the business may have messaged you. This could start as an SMS. Something happened into your account, you get a smart SMS message with a link. The link opens up a web page on your phone or on your tablet here. You start conversing. There may be a bot in there. Automation is happening here, doing this information, kind of similar to what I was describing here before. Workflows are being excluded, and if necessary, a human is brought into the picture here. What this looks like is much more rich than just text. They're able to push things like widgets into the conversation. This widget is a web form application here, where you might want to fill out specific information instead of doing it line by line by line in this conversation here. And of course, it's integrated seamlessly into things like Avaya Oceana workspaces. Dave, Vice President of Cupid, here is in the room here. They're down in the expo. If you're interested in hearing more, just to inform yourself what it is there, please go see them. They're right behind the Avaya stand, right before the food when you're down there. AI Connect, I think you heard yesterday or so on the big stage. Artificial intelligence, we've recognized, is so important that we need to create a program around it. We need to put more importance into it. We need to be able to create a platform and an ecosystem that we can help get other companies that want to come in and work with us here to enrich what we're doing in communications and in smart communications here. We've created the AI Connect, and there'll be more. I think I heard the announcement yesterday where 3 new companies that have been added since I built this slide with the logos here. Many of these companies are, of course, also down on the floor if you're interested in talking to them. Last piece, voice automation. Voice is king. When I ask people, are you getting rid of voice calls? Are voice calls reducing your business here? Everybody's moving to text, right? They're not calling you anymore. They all say, no, they're still calling. They're calling maybe differently than they did before. They're calling well-informed. They probably tried to do a lot of self-service before they even got to you on the phone there, right? So they're much more complicated conversations often, maybe even heated conversations because they were frustrated because they couldn't get it done before. But they're still calling you here. But voice is hard to handle. It's expensive. It means a person is tied up there. Incredibly important. Voice automation is an IVR in our world, right? But this is also voice automation. How many of you have one of these devices from an Alexa or something at home? Don't be shy. I have 4. I have kids too. So voice automation is something many of us are already used to. Whether you're talking to your Siri or your Google Now or whatever in your devices here, we're getting used to how this, or you're talking to your car nowadays, asking it to do certain things. What does this mean? Again, I talked about IoT. These voice devices, these voice assistants here are just an IoT device here. They're connecting to a platform. In this case, I'm going to give an example of Amazon. And we have the integration to Amazon into our world here. So we don't need to talk to every Alexa device that's out there. The example is very simple. I say, hey, Alexa, I need a new cable card. Right, I got a new device. I need a new card. If I have the skill installed on my Alexa there, I can just talk to it and say, hey, I need a card. It's talking into the back end through the business here, looking up who I am. It knows who I am because I've registered the device here. Says, should I send it to your home address? Fine, done. Voice automation, simple. That's an easy example. It's like, oh, that's nice. But that's not always reality, right? What if we take the example, same example here, but down on the right, you see this person has outstanding payments. Do I want to send them a new card right now? No, I want to get them somewhere else in my business. I need to talk to them about why they haven't paid the last 2 bills. Right? This is normal business. We're used to doing this in the voice world, right? Somebody calls us, you're doing a lot of analysis, or the agent is clever enough to either search for information or extract certain information from the conversation. We need to be able to apply that same level of smarts in an automated conversation. So here it might be, yes, we see you're outstanding, and it's doing an analysis. Do I have an agent available? And bringing that agent right into a line in a voice call. I give the example here that can we call you on your home number, In the United States, it's possible, and many of you might use this, you can make the phone call direct through your Alexa device into the business here. That's not available internationally just yet. That's why I have the example. They could call you out on your mobile or your home number here. Another company is Over.ai that we're working with here, also doing voice automation. What they specialize in is what they call AI in the line. Now, this works also in unified communication as well as contact center applications here, but the examples I'll use for contact center like inbound, outbound self-service, right? Having a smart voice AI interacting with you here. It's not scripted IVR. This is natural language processing, listening to what I'm saying, understanding what I'm saying, the machine learning through its training and its history, being able to react to me, not running a pre-programmed script here of what I need to say, what the person has to do, extracting information, and when necessary, bringing it to a live agent. One of their clients is the Deutsche Telekom in Germany. They've been able to automate, or mostly automate, 20% of their voice and text conversations. Deutsche Telekom is a pretty big company. I don't know how many calls they get, but you can imagine if you can semi-automate 20% of the voice conversations with a relatively simple AI application that was built, 80 use cases they have now. And you can see the numbers. Of course, service providers don't always have a very good NPS score. They don't do well, but some of the numbers they will do in a very short period of time. And they're also assisting the reps. So when the call gets through to the rep there, if that's necessary, the AI is still listening in the line. And it's providing cues. In this sense, it's providing information as pop-ups on the screen, right? So the customer can still talk to the rep. Another example may not be interesting for your business here particularly, but it's quite an interesting use case. The company EXP360, also on the showroom floor down there, showing virtual reality and customer service. Maybe when I say virtual reality and customer service, you start thinking, I don't even know what that might be. What does that mean? You know, why would I need VR in customer experience? So they started in the tourism industry. They've branched out to many other industries now, but they started in tourism. Selling cruise ships through magazines and brochures is hard, right? You get a photo, you get 20 photos and a brochure, and you're flipping through, and their great text is saying, hey, we have the most fancy ballroom, we have LED lights, the discos on Friday night are great, but all I see is photos there. How do I get that person to see a bit more? So I want a richer experience to be provided here. So what they did is QR codes would be on all the brochures. You could take any smartphone here, scan that QR code, it would pop up, it would download a file, whether it's a photo or a video, a 3D virtual reality video, and you can use whether Google Cardboard or if you have one of these fancy headsets there, then you can view this film or video or photo here in virtual reality right there. So you're seeing the ballroom, you're seeing the quality of Saturday Night Fever there. What they did though, and this is the interesting part, so far we haven't talked anything about communication, but what if the customer is watching a video and has a question? How do you pick up the phone, you call in, you go through the IVR, and you try to explain to the agent on the other side what video you're looking at and what are you seeing in that video at this moment here? That's not an easy thing to do. So what they integrated here is directly in that video, you click a button, and it makes a phone call. Right from that video or that photo experience there. Sends the information up to us here into the contact center. And what it does here, it also sends exactly what you're seeing in those glasses there to the agent. The agent sees exactly what you're looking at. That's carrying the context, the entire context here, directly to the customer, to the agent here. The agent is also able to push information back down to your glasses. I'm trying to find the third floor restaurant. The agent says, third floor restaurant, push, shows up on both the agent desktop here and the customer glasses here. Of course, why does it always have to go to an agent? Again, not everybody wants to have more phone calls coming into their business here. Why wouldn't we think about adding maybe artificial intelligence and automating some of that? I'm trying to find a third floor restaurant here. Get it? Here's the video coming down. I don't have to have an agent do that for me here. I have to do the legal thing. Legal didn't want me to show this screen grab because this is not an Avaya customer necessarily. Pizza Hut, I just put it up here because I'm recording all this so that everybody in legal and Avaya understands I did get permission. Thank you, Doug, for giving me permission to use this screen grab. I saw this, it must be a year and a half ago. Lou from Unbox Therapy, he's got 8 million subscribers on YouTube. I am an admitted YouTube junkie. I saw this and just happened to run by this here, and I had to stop the video, as you can see, at that moment here and take this screen grab. I said, this is so relevant for what we're talking about here. What this is Pizza Hut, as you can see, has tennis shoes. They created some tennis shoes here, and they put out a couple of dozen on the market there. What you can do is you can order pizza from your tennis shoe. We all need that, right? How about that for a gag? So on the tennis shoe, on the tongue of the shoe, there's a little button in there. It's connected, of course, to your mobile application, mobile app, you're logged into Pizza Hut. You can do the math of how the technology is not very hard. Great gag here, right? But when I saw this, and maybe I'm just a little bit damaged from living in this industry too long here, I immediately saw a problem. That's great. You can order pizza from a shoe or from a button or whatever it might be. Well, what if I'm playing basketball and over a 15-minute period, I order 12 pizzas? That poor Pizza Hut shop down the street's getting order from the same person, not all at the same time. I just got 12 orders of 2 large salami pizzas. How does that shop owner, the Pizza Hut, communicate with me? We got a problem. They can't. Right? There's no way to communicate back to the person here. That's where integrating into the platform, saying, I see something happening that doesn't make sense. I need to contact that person. I need to send a notification. I need to call them. Somehow I need to make sure that this is a true thing here. Internet of Things, connected devices, are not just connecting them to something in the back end. They need to be connected to a smart workflow. They need to be connected to something that can analyze and make sense of what it's trying to do here. So automation and experience, this network, this ecosystem is available already today, and many of our customers are starting to use it here. Something you should be aware of and what you might be interested in looking into. Come to see us on the floor, the expo floor. We've got a number of these things in demo, and some of our partners as well. And as I promised, if you search for me on YouTube, you will certainly find me. Or you search for Avaya and Andrew, you'll certainly run into me too. Videos from yesterday up there. I'll be uploading this tonight as soon as I get the screen grab of the recording here, the audio, so you can just go find that and share it with your colleagues, your friends, your customers if you're interested. And if you have any feedback, leave me comments. I love it. I will react to every one of them, and I thank you for your time.